Okay, folks, so in today's episode, we are going to be discussing the importance of understanding our orchids and their growth habits and also their structure of their bloom spikes. Because as you guys know, as orchid growers, one of our highly anticipated moments with our orchids, of course, is to watch and appreciate it as it comes into bloom. And one of the most important factors of ensuring that indeed we will have beautiful, beautiful blooms is understanding our orchids, their growth habits, and of course the spike structure of that orchid. And not understanding the orchid's growth habit and spike structure can indeed lead to bloom fatality. So today I'm going to give you many examples on exactly what I'm talking about with a variety of different orchids. And the first orchid that we have on our list is this Cloacei variety, also known as a catasetum type of orchid. Now this orchid actually has a whole adventure dedicated just to this orchid right here. If you guys have not followed that adventure, please be sure to click on the link over here. It's quite interesting and informative, and this link will actually lead you directly to that video. Okay, so this orchid right here was my very first catasetum type orchid, and I do have to admit, due to my inexperience with the Cloacei variety that I have, I actually originally potted this orchid up wrong. So we had to do an emergency repot, and I'll tell you why. The way that I originally potted up this orchid, the pseudobulbs actually sat a lot lower. And the way this actually spikes is the spike will come from the base of the pseudobulb, and it is a pendulant spike, so therefore it'll come down and cascade downwards. The way that I had this potted up, again, it was like this low, so you had all of this pot material that would have blocked the spike from coming out. So therefore this would not have been able to bloom appropriately, and it would indeed affect that orchid spike in such a negative way. So in this case, yeah, understanding the way that this Cloacei orchid blooms really has to be noted, because I would have killed that spike. So fortunately I found out in enough time, and indeed we had a chance to repot this Cloacei orchid. Now we also have to understand that the catasetum type orchids actually spike in many different ways, so this is not always the case for all catasetum type orchids. As you can see, this one right here, even though it did come from the base, you're seeing that it did bloom in kind of an angle-like spike habit, so therefore it didn't really affect this orchid bloom, as you can see. But if I would have caught this in its earlier spike stage, I actually, if I wanted to, could have actually staked this up just a little bit upward and trained it to where I could have enjoyed it just that much more. Now this right here is very important that you understand exactly how this variety of orchid blooms. This is a Stanhopea. This orchid right here is one of the most unique orchids that I know of, especially in the regards of how it blooms and its spike structure. And definitely if you do not understand how this blooms or how the spikes come about, you will most certainly experience spike fatality. Okay, so looking at this orchid, it doesn't look that special to me. I mean, I've seen many of orchids that look just like this. So what is so special about this orchid? Well, the unique thing about this orchid is in the fact that the spike will not come from the base of the pseudobulb. It will not come from the center of the pseudobulb. It will not come within the leaves or the side of the leaves, but in fact, it comes from a very peculiar place. Dun-dun-dun-dun. The actual spike of this Stanhopea orchid will actually come from underneath. Okay, you heard it right. This will actually come from underneath. Is that not ridiculous, or is that not ridiculous? Okay, so now that we know that this actually blooms from underneath and downwards, then we should also understand that this cannot be held in any container that would prevent the spike from actually growing downwards, right? Because if it does, if there's something blocking that spike, then you should understand that that spike will inevitably pass away. And that is why it is especially important that at the base of the container that there is an opening where that spike can comfortably break through the media and again just bloom downwards. It will actually cascade or be a pendulum spike where it'll hang from the base of the actual container. So indeed, this is very important, especially in this orchid, to understand the spike structure and the spike growing habit. Now, taking a look at this Oncidium type variety, you will notice that I actually planted the pseudobulbs deep into the pot. Now, will this affect the bloom spike, and why did I do it this way? Well, in actual reality, the reason why I planted this so deep into the pot is for the simple fact that I did want to create good moisture and good humidity, and I felt this is a great way to do that, where the humidity will be trapped within this pot and good for the roots. So that's why I did that. Now, will it affect the actual flower spike? If we understand the growth habit of the Oncidium varieties, we will know that it does not. For the simple fact that the spikes will actually come from either the top of the pseudobulbs, or it will come from the axil or the side of the leaf, as it has done here. So again, this will not affect the spike in any way. And here we have the amazing, very unique Psychopsis orchid. Indeed, well noted for its very unique bloom structure. Quite an amazing and exquisite orchid indeed. And one of the greatest attributes of this Psychopsis orchid is in the fact that its flower spike can actually bloom 7 to 8 years. Wow, what an amazing feature this orchid has. And the blooming habit of the actual blossom itself is the fact that it is a sequential bloomer and it will bloom one at a time. As a flower is about to die, a new flower is growing in its place, and once it's gone, there will be a new flower taking over. And now, understanding that this spike is a sequential blooming spike, it is also especially important that we note that this spike will continue to grow. And if you think about it, within 7 to 8 years, yeah, this spike can grow rather long. But not only can the Psychopsis orchid create these long spikes, but we also have to understand it can actually produce multiple long spikes. So that is why it is very important at the young age of the spike's life that we go ahead and train it up in the proper way so that we will have well-behaved blooming orchids. Exactly the way we see it now. So indeed, that's how important it is to go ahead and stake these orchids up right so that we'll have well-behaved and highly respected Psychopsis orchid blooms. Okay, and what I have before you are two species Phalaenopsis right here. And I wanted to talk to you about the blooming habits of the species Phalaenopsis also, so we can better display and get the most out of the bloom spikes. Okay, so with the Javanica, we must understand that the bloom spikes will actually come from the lower part of the leaf area, usually somewhere around in here or somewhere underneath here. So it is very important that we have these orchids hanging in such a way where when it does cascade down, we can definitely appreciate and see those blooms. And this particular Phalaenopsis right here, as you can see, it's actually spiking from the top. So in this way, I have this a little bit lower so that when it does bloom, you can definitely be capable of really appreciating those blooms as well. And understanding the spiking habit of this Javanica orchid right here, I did decide not to pot it up in the regular normal way that you would normally see a Phalaenopsis, but instead I have it potted up in such an angle where the leaves are actually cascading downwards, and it is on a hanging hook. And as you can see here, the entire Phalaenopsis is just cascading in a natural, beautiful way. And indeed, we would have the opportunity of also seeing those flower spikes cascading downwards where we could fully appreciate its beautiful, fragrant blooms. And there you have it, folks. That is why it is so important that we get to know the blooming structure and also the growing habit of our flowering spike. It can mean even the life or death of the flowers itself. So indeed, it is that important that we fully indulge, fully appreciate, and fully become fulfilled with the beauty of our orchids. And I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in to yet another orchid adventure with me, Maria Young. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it 2 thumbs up. And of course, if you want to see more videos such as these, please be sure to subscribe. And if you would like to join me on my adventures on Facebook, you can do that at My Orchid Adventures. If you want to contact me via snail mail, you can do that at the address right here. Again, I thank you so much for tuning in to yet another orchid adventure. Stay tuned for more. And as you guys already know, I love you all.